Welcome to this episode of Demystified, where we are going to discuss the difference between eating and dining. So thank you for joining us. This is Demystified as we explore home cooking in the modern world. And I'm Linda, and I'm here with my friend Paul. Hey Paul.
New intro.
How are you?
Intro.
You're back from the USA and
Canada.
And Canada. Very excited.
Yes.
To catch up at last.
And about a COVID on the way back.
COVID, yes.
That was good. That was awesome.
That keeps on giving,
isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. No, trip was good. Trip was, eye-opening. First time to North America. So.
And I saw on some of the posts that you were making that you were enjoying some very fine dining.
Yes, and I suppose that hence today's topic du jour, if I can call it that. So I had quite a few memorable food experiences while travelling, but I'm going to pick on probably two, and they were both in New York, and they were both vastly different, but for the timing and the mood that I was in and the frame of mind that I was in and everything, they were both equally as good. But there is a distinct difference between eating, stuffing your face and fueling your body and dining. And I think often I think fine dining has become a bit of a... It's not like it used to be, right? Like it used to be this big special... It's like, I kind of think of it like... I think back in the day, people would get dressed in their finest to jump on a plane.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So, and I think fine dining has sort of gone by the wayside of like, it's all a bit too stuffy and we don't want to get dressed up. Well, I mean, to a degree, we don't want to get dressed up. But
we've all had experiences like that.
Yeah, I probably had what some would term as a older school fine dining dinner. And I also ate at a rough house ready deli. Proper old school American 1960s deli.
Oh, wow.
And they were both delicious. Both really, really different, but both delicious. They're both like experiences, but one was just eating for the sake of eating, and the other was a dining experience. So my dining experience was per se. So those of you that have listened before know I have a man love.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah.
With Thomas Keller.
That's
so
serious.
I was very, very fortunate. I did put myself on the wait list when I found out I was going, and I did sort of write a letter begging and pleading to find me a spot. None of that came to fruition, but fortunately a colleague of mine who works in New York knows everyone. And when I say knows everyone, he actually does. It's not a lie. He knows everyone, and he sort of took it as a bit of a challenge, and he said, where would you like to go? And I said, per se, and he was like, oh, okay, I didn't mean that much of a challenge, because it's about 6 months wait to get in if you're regular Joe Punter. So with literally like less than 2 weeks notice, he got us in. So
wow.
Yeah, I did write him a handwritten letter thanking him, telling him how much it actually meant to me to just go and experience it.
Because you did more than eat there, didn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, they did I don't know how he pulled the strings that he pulled, but I got a full tour of the kitchen, chatted to the chefs, got a full tour of the wine cellar, the whole place. Like they just opened it up. So yeah, it was quite amazing actually. Wow. I'm very fortunate. And they printed off the menu for me and.
Yes, and to the listeners, I got shown that menu with the question, are your hands clean?
Yes. Well, that's
okay.
Yeah, because that for me was a bucket list, I actually never thought I would get to a Thomas Keller restaurant, ever.
No, because you talked about French Laundry.
Yeah, well, his sort of first restaurant was the French Laundry, and unfortunately I just didn't have enough time to get to where that is, which is outside of San Diego. But I was in New York, and it was literally 10 minutes walk from my hotel room. So it was kind of convenient. And you overlook Central Park, and it's quite spectacular and all the rest of it. But when I sort of said, came up with the idea of the topic, the difference between, and fine dining in particular, fine dining in my mind is still alive and very, very well, because that is a fine dining experience, and it's not a stuffy experience anymore. Like, I rocked up in jeans and a shirt, and that's cool. But everything was better than any other dining experience I've ever had, from the service to the way that each different waiter, because there was a cast of thousands of them, delivered the food, talked about the dish, explained what was going to happen. You know, you don't feel overwhelmed or out of place. And I am, at my heart, a bogan. And for those of you that don't know what a bogan is, it's like, I don't know, a bit rough around the edges and all the rest of it. But you certainly don't feel you need to be dripping in a Rolex watch and diamonds to...
Or a chef.
Or a chef, or, you know, anyone can go there. And that's what I think I like about what fine dining is today. Anyone can go. And there's no assumptions made about how much money you might have in your bank account or anything like that. And I think previously, like, there was a little bit of that snobby part to dining at restaurants, sort of like that, and that's now disappeared. So I think fine dining, and the version of, you know, the 21st century version of fine dining, is probably the best because of those things. The food was ridiculously good. Everything, it was an absolute masterclass in refinement. The dishes were small, and it wasn't one of those occasions where you left hungry. Like, I certainly didn't leave hungry. But what was unique about it was that there was no ingredient repeated throughout the 9 or 10 courses that we had. So there was no ingredient that was crossed over from course to course. So every single plate of food had original ingredients on it, which I found like you'd be hard pressed to find a restaurant that doesn't, you know, use one ingredient here or there across a couple of dishes. That's a point for these guys. They don't do it. So the refinement of it wasn't just in the cooking, it was also in, and it's not minimalist either, so it's not super, super modern. It's very based in classic French technique, which is why it's my thing. But everything that was put on a plate had a purpose. And even if it was only 3 things on the plate, they all had a purpose and a meaning and matched perfectly. So that as an entire exercise was like perfect.
That's more like an experience though, when it's a bit like that, when it's getting explained to you rather than just served, so that you get to hear about the dish.
Yeah, but even then, they didn't go into huge amounts of depth and detail. Like, we didn't get a menu. We weren't given a menu. The maitre d' came up to us and said, okay, so here's what we're going to do for you tonight. Does that sound good? And if you'd like to change something, just let us know. So they just... And the funny thing was when I got my tour of the back of house, and all the menus change daily. Not every second day, not every third day, but daily, right? So the menu doesn't repeat, which in of itself. So if you went the next day, if you could afford it to go the next day, you would have a different dining experience because the menu would be different.
But as a chef,
yeah,
how hard is that?
Well, when I saw how many chefs were in there, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean and the kitchen, I have to say, looked like it had never been cooked in, and that place must be a dozen years old. It was like I would have happily eaten off the floor in that kitchen. It was spotless, and I mean, there wasn't a mark on a tile anywhere. Like, it was extraordinary.
Wow.
Yeah, like, and the brass parts of the kitchen are still shiny brass. Like, you know, everything was... And so when you're brave enough as a restaurant to take people through your kitchen, like, you want it to be pretty good. This was better than pretty good. And it just shows you that, you know, what goes on in the back of house is reflected on what comes out on your plate, right? It was very calm in there. And I mean, they're doing 9 or 10 courses for... There must have been 50 people in there. You know, that's a lot of food.
And it's all different.
Yeah, and it's all coming out at different times. And I mean, you have a chef running a pass because you just need to, because, you know, we might be on course 4 and you might be on course 7, but it's all got to, you know, come together, and you've got different parts of the kitchen working together to put the dish together. So there's a lot to do, but it was very, very calm. All the chefs stopped and said hello. They stopped working, said g'day, how you going? Allowed me to take a couple of photos. So it was like,
wow,
yeah, a proper,
great.
a proper experience.
Yeah.
So I think in that scenario and the way the service was run, you know, being able to opt in or opt out of whatever you wanted, whenever you felt like if you want to do matching wines but you want an extra glass of that, it's not a problem. Nothing is too hard. Nothing. So no request is too rich, but it's not snobby. You know, it's just like, and you would basically sit in there, and although it was we're reasonably well spaced out, we did chat to the people across from us, and the person that I was with, we were sort of guessing, you know, going, oh, these people come here all the time. Now, we just made an assumption about other people in the restaurant, and we got chatting to them. Now, they were there for their 30-year wedding anniversary and had been booked in for 6 months and been waiting forever to visit a Thomas Keller restaurant. So they were much like us.
Wow.
So you're close enough to people but far enough away that you feel like you're the only people in the restaurant. And you feel like the staff are there. Like, my water was not empty. Not once. Like, they see everything. And everything is considered, and the timing that the food comes out. Everything is, like, I cannot stress the level of training and execution that they must go through to get to that stage. And it is worth every single... Like, I've been to Michelin star restaurants. This is next level. Like, it is worth 3 Michelin stars every day of the week, and it has been for years and years and years. Conversely, my deli experience, so I got a bit of a tour of New York City from a chef that I was working with over there, and we went to a rooftop bar, and I got to sort of overlook New York and New Jersey, and that was cool, and everything was great. And he said, we should get some food. And I said, yeah. He said, what do you feel like? And I said, I just want something like simple, like really, really simple. Like, I don't want to go anywhere, because I knew I had per se coming up. But I said to him, I want something quintessentially New York, something that says that you have been to New York. So he took me to Katz's Deli. Now, Katz's Deli is very, very famous, and it's famous because it's in the movie When Harry Met Sally, when she does the pretend scene at the table. And they actually have that table marked in the deli.
Fantastic.
But the funny thing is you walk in the door, you get given this little yellow ticket, like a ticket stub, old school movie ticket stub, and you cannot leave without this ticket, right? Because basically that ticket, everything is that you order is written on this little yellow ticket, and then you pass the ticket at the front door and pay before you leave. And this is how it all works, right? And you basically walk up to this massive deli counter, and this isn't like some stale UV light deli counter that we would associate with a deli counter. This is essentially a counter which is a massive, it must have been 15 to 20 metres long.
Wow.
And it was all sectioned out, and each section had a number, and they were the cutter numbers. So the guys working behind those sections, you could go to cutter 1, cutter 8, cutter 6, cutter wherever there was less of a queue, because it was heaving. The joint was packed. So this guy who I was with took me there, and he goes, okay, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have pastrami on rye and a matzo ball soup. And I'm like, okay, you're showing the way here. So anyway, we walk up to the counter. He says pastrami on rye. So the guy who's the cutter doesn't really interact with you. He just wants to know what you want and then move on and get out of the way because someone else is waiting. So it's not a super friendly service environment. And you get your food on the plastic tray and you take it over to your table. There's no waiters. The floor is covered in breadcrumbs, like covered in breadcrumbs. The chairs are shitty and old. The tables are rubbish. But I watched him sort of turn around and face the other way and sort of open this massive vat and pull out this pastrami, right? This whole pastrami. And then right in front of you, he sort of trims off the fat and he just scrapes it straight onto the floor. And the sort of part of their waist where their apron is just covered in crap from the pastrami hitting their waist and then dropping onto the floor. So they're the offcuts. And this is how much they churn through, right? Because they are just pumping out pastrami, corned beef, and various other things that they do. The menu is this 1960s font, sort of tried to be updated because the prices have increased since 1965. But, it's like, it's all a bit of a mishmash. There's a wall of photos of famous people that have gone in there. So it's uber famous, this place. So anyway, he's got this pastrami, takes all the trimming bit off and then all the fat bit off, and then slices this thing like grease lightning. Like, it was fast, like properly fast. And you can tell this guy could do it in his sleep if he wanted to. And then they get 2 bits of rye bread, and not huge, right? 2 bits of rye bread. He slaps a bit of mustard on it, puts some pastrami on top. The pastrami is just sliced, puts another piece on top, slices the sandwich in half, puts it on a plate, and that's it. And that is it, right? So, barring the soup, which was fine, right? I've had matzo ball soup before, and yeah, it's good. And basically, we were just trying to soak up a bit of alcohol that we'd taken on board. Yes. So the guy I'm with, we find a table because there's no, you just got to squeeze your way in where you can. You just find a table. So we found a table, sat down. Now, we only ordered 1 sandwich because they are, I don't know what that is, 4 inches thick? Yeah, 4 inches thick. And it's 2 pieces of bread and just a shit ton of pastrami. So anyway, he's like, try this. So I take my half, I take a bite, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was, now, per se is one thing, right? Exercise in refinement, everything, total perfection. This was easily as perfect. Now, yes, it was the time, it's the environment you're in, and it's all these sorts of things. But that half a pastrami sandwich is one of the best things I've ever eaten. Now, it was about a thousandth of the price of going to per se, and there's no service involved, and there's no alcohol, and there's no this, and there's no, I think you can buy beers there or whatever. But the difference between eating and dining sometimes isn't as far away as what people think it is, because you can find perfection anywhere. And that was absolutely perfect. And we didn't have a skinful, we weren't drunk or anything, but it was just that gritty sort of side of New York that I wanted to see. And it was perfect. Like, that pastrami was one of the best things ever. So if you're ever in New York and you get the opportunity and you can afford to do 2 very different dining experiences, do something like that, because it's eye-opening. You'll see levels of like service and perfection that you probably, there's very few restaurants in the world, I think, that can consistently perform at that level day after day after day after day, which is what per se is all about. But Katz's Deli on the same, for the same sort of thing, their pastrami is that and has been forever in a day, and that's why the joint at 10 o'clock at night is absolutely heaving, and they're charging $25 for a couple of bits of bread and pastrami, and 25 US is what, 56 Australian. It's an expensive sandwich, but it is worth every cent. And that's my dining versus eating, but they're not that far away sometimes.
It's interesting that was a thing that we wanted to talk about, because it is something that we've noticed here, and I feel like it's because I'm old-fashioned, but when I went out to, in Melbourne, there's this fantastic restaurant called Cutler & Co.
Yeah.
And it's great. And it's beautiful, and it's in, a very funky part. It's off Gertrude Street, which is the second funkiest street in the world, apparently. But I went there, and it was for my birthday. Dougie and I got all dressed up. It was we were so excited. I put on a dress, and we went out. And the couple next to us were on their phones, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And they didn't actually talk to each other all night. They were a young couple.
Yeah.
They were on their phones. They ate the food, was sort of, meh.
Yeah.
And then just, got up and walked out. And I thought, don't they realise how?
Yeah, but you also
but,
make it what you want to make it as well.
But I just thought that was, and I thought, gee, I am getting old when I'm looking at younger people going, those young folks, they don't take it seriously. But
yeah, but you don't have to take it seriously.
But it was not, no.
Yeah.
And that's what, afterwards when, it sort of occurred to me as I was walking out and I saw the variety of people eating there. And it is that sort of place, and Melbourne's full of them, that you can just go in. And I remember back in the late 80s and 90s, you go to the Rialto, which is at that time really, a top-notch place in Melbourne, and higher 35 floors up, and you'd have your dinner, and you get all dressed up and you look out over Melbourne, and the waiters would come to present the food, and they'd all stand around and they'd
they were in penguin suits and the whole kit.
And they lifted up the silver dome over your plate, and all at the same time to reveal, the food, and that did feel like, a bit overwhelming at the time when we were a lot younger, but that was, but now you can just roll in and eat anywhere.
Yeah.
And
which was why I think it's good.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's good. And I think, like, a lot of places, and I think most places these days sort of, there's no real rules and requirements,
No.
I mean, it's harder to get into the MCG members these days.
I know it. I'm still on the waiting list. I'll be
no, but even
but
even when you're a member, you
can't
get in if you're not wearing a collar.
No, that's right.
So and that's the sort of old school,
Collar and a tie, or just a collar?
Collar.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it took a while for them to get over the tie thing as well, but I think that's where fine dining, and people saying fine dining is not a thing anymore. I still think it is. Like per se was every bit fine dining, and it's not fine dining because of the food. It's the entire thing makes it a fine dining experience. But it isn't. I think we often associate fine dining with stuffiness, with snobbery, with waiters in waistcoats and bow ties and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that exists anymore. And if it does, it would be kind of almost a bit of a joke now. People would do it. People would do it to, the old school days. I mean, one of the funny thing is I walked past this one restaurant which had queues outside it every time, and I walked past it often. It had queues outside it, and it was like this sort of performance restaurant. So your waiter would sing, and they would do a performance at your table, and there was queues of people. Now I couldn't imagine anything worse because I hate musicals, and I don't feel that mixing like musicals with song and dance is anything that I need to be involved in. But clearly, now that's another experience, right?
Exactly.
But and I often wonder, are you actually going there for the food, or are you going there for the experience? But who cares, right? The point is that I think you can find perfection in food in both the super high end and a rough house, and it's not a rough house, but a gritty deli, and they were equally as good. And I never thought I would say that, but they were equally as good. So there you go. And
the rest of the times you were eating in New York, and you were trying in, was it Montreal?
Yeah, so Montreal was good. I did get I was fortunate enough to be invited to another Michelin star restaurant in Montreal. I also got a tour of the kitchen. Spent time chatting with the chef as well. He showed me some ingredients that we just don't get here, so I was very interested to chat to him and talk to him about that. That was another, experience, and they were being super. It was almost too much. The food just kept on coming. It kept on coming. So we actually ended up having to say stop because it was just. And we decided to do matching wines with that, so it got a bit. Woof. A few times I stood up, but that was another experience. But I think those two in New York were so different, but so good at the same time.
New York's a really interesting place.
I mean, look, 4 days was enough for me. I don't need to be in New York longer than that. That's enough. If I happen to go back, I'll go and visit some other places, and that's great. And we found a little Italian restaurant, and that was cool. It was very much New York's version of an Italian restaurant. I think quite a lot of our expat Italians would do a better job, but it was nice, and it was kind of a cool, tiny little. Everyone sat at a long shared table, so you're talking to the person next to you that you don't know. Funnily enough, one of the guys that I ended up sitting next to was like some Broadway producer dude just talking about musicals.
Hands up, don't talk to me.
But the person that I was travelling with was spent the entirety of the time in New York trying to convince me to go to a musical, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. It's just not my thing, right? So anyway, she had to go back via New York, so she stopped off and went to a musical, and I'm like, yeah, good, do it without me.
Whereas when we were there, our 4 days, we saw 3 musicals.
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine. It's seriously, shoot me now.
It was fantastic.
No, shoot me now.
And it was, and yeah.
But no, so New York was cool. LA's, that's another story, I think, for another day. And Montreal was very European. I was surprised how very, very European it is. Quite pretty and beautiful. I did like Montreal. I could spend some time there quite happily. It's just, I think I get a bit overwhelmed by volumes of people to that, like you get in New York. I mean, I had the same experience it's next level in Mumbai. Mumbai is just ridiculous. But it was good to see, it was good to go. New Yorkers are full on people. They are full on. They're talking a million miles an hour. They're in a rush to be somewhere, all of them, all the time.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
So, yeah, but it was an experience.
And it's all happening, isn't it? And Times Square is just...
It's like, crazy tunes.
You've got to go there at least once in your life and just take it all in if you can, because there's so many things to see.
But even Central Park, right? Like Central Park on a weekend.
So
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like just the volume of people. Yeah. Like sometimes, we'll take Ollie to the zoo and we think it's busy. Mate, that ain't busy.
No.
That is not busy. No. Central Park must be twice the size of the zoo and there's 100 times more people. It was crazy. The one thing I did like about New York is you could be anyone in New York. That's the one thing I did like about it. So you could walk down the street in jeans and runners and a t-shirt or the finest suit and no one looks at you either which way.
I think all of America's a bit like the places that I've been.
Well, I think it was a bit different in California when I was there.
Are very welcoming, very hospitable, and take you for on face value.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But no, I did notice that in New York that you could be anyone. Okay. So I did like that, but not so much. I don't think LA was like that. Well, certainly not the area of LA that I was in, which was very affluent and
I've been to LA.
A bit snobby.
Other than the airport, I've flown in and flown out straight away.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, but okay.
But anyway, sorry, I'm banging on.
Interesting about that eating versus fine dining.
But I think that's all for today.
Done. And well, that was sudden, and I was thinking there'd be something else.
No.
But no. Alrighty. Well, thank you for that. And next time I'm in New York, I might, if I'm going to know that I'm going, I might plan a year ahead and see if I can get into per se. It's worth it. But make sure Dougie loads up the credit card. Oh, he don't worry, he always does before we travel. Don't you worry about that. Well, thank you for that, Paul. And
thanks, Linda.
Happy cooking, everybody.
Happy cooking.
Until next time, bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.